I think we're going to see a real softening of consumer spending power on the lower end of the American economy right now. It just, all the data that we had from early in this recession and the start of the recovery was that there was a lot of spending being supported by government aid, the unemployment benefits, supplements, and the direct payments. There had been hopes that there would continue in some form to be more supplements for the unemployed, and that there might be another round of stimulus checks. That's actually something Democrats and Republicans had both wanted, but we're not seeing them yet. There does not appear to be any real hope for a deal anytime soon, and I think we should expect to start seeing the data reflect that as people kind of run through any savings they had built up from those checks earlier.
Are you a believer? And I don't want to go down a total doomsday scenario, but are you a believer that this could actually turn into a housing crisis? Because that's when it would hit the banks and it could really devolve in a...
Yeah, right now there certainly is an issue that people are very worried about with renters. I think it would take more to spiral into a full-blown housing crisis. But yeah, I think we need to be worried about all the downside risks right now. This recovery is fragile. We do not have control of the virus, and the longer it goes on without more fiscal support, as the Fed officials were calling for yesterday, I think the higher the risks go, that you just start to see permanent business closures, permanent layoffs, and more of that permanent damage that can ripple into the housing market, ripple through the financial system. Yeah, I wouldn't call it the most likely scenario right now, but I don't think you should discount the possibility that this could get worse.
As somebody who spent a lot of time in Washington, Jim, tell us about what you think tax policy is going to look like under the two candidates in 2021. Are taxes ultimately going to get raised? How do you think that's going to manifest itself?
Well, we don't know exactly what the president's reelect agenda would be. He hasn't really spelled out a big plan of new tax cuts, but he has said to expect more tax cuts, and I would expect them to be true to their word on that they would at least push for another package. I think if Joe Biden comes in, he has absolutely made raising taxes on high earners and on capital as to be a part of his program to finance a bunch of the things he wants to do. He's indicated that he wants to keep doing that. I think all of this, though, you have the backdrop of if we're still in a recession or we're still in a very weak recovery, there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to just continue deficit spending as opposed to financing new spending with a tax increase to start right away. So I think that the tax policies depend obviously on who wins, but also on what sort of economy is waiting for the next president, whoever that is.
But, Jim, let me ask you this, and really maybe it's a lesson from the book. Are you of the view that, there's going to be a big debate about, A, whether we should raise taxes, and B, whether we should spend less? And the question, of course, is the timing of that. When do you actually do that? And you're already starting to see that debate play itself out right now. What do you do? What is the lesson? And you incorporate some of this in the book.
Yeah, I think, the book is the story of how America built the great middle class in the 50s and 60s and 70s and how we could rebuild it again. And from just a very basic economic perspective, we know the formula that works for rising incomes that pull people into the middle class, a growing pie that also has bigger slices for everyone. And that formula is tight labor markets with strong economic growth. So, particularly coming out of this crisis, I think one of the lessons of the last crisis was Congress cut off aggressive fiscal stimulus well before we had a tight labor market. I mean, we were just starting to get close to full employment right before this crisis hit. So I think one of the things that economic history tells us is policymakers, whether it's the Fed or Congress, need to do basically everything they can to get back to low unemployment and strong growth as fast as possible.